Well, this particular proposal BJP has been constantly pushing.
Why is one nation, one election so dear to the BJP?
The argument here given by the Covid committee is reduce expenses. Other argument is it will protect social harmony. I don't know how. I mean, it sounds very odd. And then stimulate economic development. This looks really, surprising.
Hello and welcome. I'm Srinivasan. This is Talking Sense with Srini. We're joined by Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Srinivasan, after a brief break. So wonderful to have you.
Yeah, hi. Very nice to be with you once again. Yeah.
We're going to discuss one nation, one election here. The BJP is kind of quite obsessed with this ONOP, right? And there's a lot of conversation that's going on in social media right now. Let me keep the spotlight on what has happened in the union elections. It happened in 7 different phases, right? Do you think India has got the caliber and the wherewithal to actually do elections all at one go?
Yeah, so it's one of the perhaps biggest democratic exercises which happens in the world. Apparently, some 15 million people are required for this exercise. It has to be done all over. I don't know what is the new number. The other thing is you need lots of machines for this. Again, the approximation is about 50 million machines you need. And each machine costs about 17,000 rupees. And add VVPAT, another 17,000 rupees. That's a cost. So it's an enormous exercise where you have to prepare an electoral roll. Now, with this new announcement, which the cabinet has resolved, now it is coming up in Parliament on Monday, they have said that they want to do this one nation, one election simultaneously, only for Parliament Assembly as of now. We thought that they're going to, that's what the Covid High Power Committee has recommended. It hasn't included Assembly. Parliament and Assembly they haven't included Panchayat and local bodies. So your question is, can the enormity of it, can we do it? Look, administratively things are possible, but then how practical, how much of democratic spirit it will have? Those are the question. Because end of the day, elections are a democratic exercise. We have to remember that it's not just getting some ballots, and it's not a football, team selection or something like that. It's basically people who are going to govern you for the next 5 years. It's a serious exercise, and therefore it has to be done properly, and that's the logic.
If one nation, one election could actually eclipse smaller parties, why are regional parties like the JDU, the JDS, the Akali Dal, they're all in complete support of this particular bill?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Did you notice that all of them are NDA partners?
Okay.
So all those on that side of the divide have backed, and the others have opposed it. So and again, if you look at the number, I think apparently how many political parties participated in this exercise? I think about 47 sent their responses. Out of that, 32 all NDA partners, all NDA members, and 15 opposed. And they said this is anti-democratic and
kind of friendly with BJP as well.
Yeah, so anti-democratic and anti-federal. That's what they have said. But one of the contention is how come these so many parties are there? Many of them, according to the opposition, are what they call letterhead parties or one-member parties, and they are not actually qualified to be a proper political party, because their contention is, their allegation is done in a great hurry. The whole exercise happened in 191 days and 18,000 pages. Can you imagine Covid's report? And they're saying that, look, it's probably bigger than Constitution, or I exactly don't know how many pages Constitution are, but it's a big document. So the whole exercise seemed to be to converge on only one point, that we should hold simultaneous election across the country, both Parliament and Assembly together. That seems to be the main focus. So like you asked, why are these parties agreeing? These are parties, if you see which are these parties, JDU, which is an alliance. Again, you said Akali, which is an alliance. And again, Shiv Sena. Again, the Shiv Sena has it has split off, 2 factions. Yeah. So these are the ones which are supporting. And of course, BJP is backing it heavily. So it's not as if they have managed to build a consensus of all political parties before this exercise, and that should have been important, because at the end of the day, election is not about one political party; it's about the politics as a whole.
Yeah.
All parties should have been in. Again, there are other complaints. Apparently, the questionnaire was only in English and Hindi. Imagine, not every region or every part of India speaks these two languages. And there are regional languages. We live in Tamil Nadu. A whole lot of people might have given their objection in their own mother tongue. So the exercise seems to be a pretty hurried one. And therefore, these objections are coming from opposition parties.
Okay, so why is one nation, one election so dear to the BJP? And what do you think it's against the very idea of federalism?
Well, this particular proposal, BJP has been constantly pushing. To be fair, Atal Bihari Vajpayee raised this issue. Advani made very vocal about this. They've been consistent about it, and they've been saying it for a while. It comes more out of perhaps the mindset that, look, what are the advantages? 2-3 advantages. One, it's very orderly, that every 5 years there should be elections and everybody in parliament and assembly get elected together. So it's an orderly exercise. Second is, they feel, at least the argument here given by the Kovind committee is that it will reduce expenses. It will reduce expenses. That's the second argument. The other argument is it will protect social harmony. I don't know how. It sounds very odd. And then stimulate economic development. This looks really, surprising, how it will stimulate economy or economic development. So the reasons for giving this looks very, very specious. But it's not as if the original idea was of BJP. Please remember, even the first 5 elections in India were held simultaneous. India, since it became a republic in 1950, the first election onwards, 52, 57, you go on till 67, they were all simultaneous. I think subsequently after that, what happened was, Namboodiripad government in Kerala was dismissed in 1959. Again, the reorganization of states took place. Many more new states were born. All this kind of derailed this one election, one nation, one election, which used to happen. The simultaneous election went off. And then there were a lot of political activities. Some governments were dismissed. Some governments were short of majority. No confidence motion were passed against them. So a lot of political activity happened. A lot of changes happened. So since then, it's been continuing. But the attempts are made. There was Law Commission report which came. Indira Gandhi was also, she ordered that, can we hold such an election once again? But none of these recommendations probably said that we must do. They said that, yeah, we should attempt this. Nobody had said so emphatically as BJP is now saying we must hold it. Now, the question here is why BJP is so interested. One, the political argument. I'll give you a political argument. Political argument is that, it's easy for Modi and Amit Shah to, hold an election at one point because they seem to be campaigning all over whenever an election takes place. In another way, if you looks like more centralizing. That's another worry. Why you want to centralize? There is one study which suggests that if you hold simultaneously both parliament and assembly, 77% chances are that more parliamentary issues are taken up, more national issues are taken up. And if elections are held, 6 months later, it drops to 61%. The weight of, national issues. So it very clearly shows, if you go by this study, and there are other suggestions saying that, look, simultaneous election is not such a good idea because the states lose their rights, especially in a federal structure. And there's another argument. Look, according to Kesavananda Bharati judgment, we are, the federalism is there in constitution, and the basic structure of the constitution cannot be altered. Here, it would mean that some states may have to give up the tenure because when they are trying to synchronize both election, parliament and assembly, and keeping the parliament as a base 5 years, 24 to 29, So some of the assemblies may get dissolved. Some may have a tenure left 1 year, some may have 2 years, some may even have 3 years, some may even have 4-year tenure. So all that have to be dissolved. So they are saying that, look, this is an attack on federalism. You're not taking into account the question of the state assemblies and state chief ministers and state politics. See, it's true that in the constitution, all this might have been envisaged. First 5 years, we might have had simultaneous election. But in politics, over a period of time, that also evolves. We have to remember those things. Whether Kovind committee looked into the way the politics has evolved, the way the elections have happened, I'm in one doubt, because they have very short, in a way, there is another allegation that they're saying that, look, more or less, it was predetermined that they will arrive at this conclusion. Why they're saying it? Because one argument given is in 2018, reading out his presidential address, the then President Kovind had said that, look, I'm in favor of such a thing. And when somebody has already taken a position and you make him head of the committee, how would you expect an impartial report? That's another argument. So,
an extension of what you said, the economic stimuli thingy, right? So the CII, one of India's largest trade association, had to say, nation always in election mode affects infrastructure and capital expenditure. So largely because of the delays in approvals and clearances during the model code of conduct particularly. So would you buy this narrative?
Yeah, again, so if you had to look at data, there is a Kovind committee has said that out of, in 5 years, there are at least 800 days in which model code of conduct is in force. Well, why does a prime minister or a home minister need to go and campaign even in an assembly election? I mean, in the past, during the early, I mean, they quote Nehru era constantly, so one can quote it back. Central politicians will avoid state elections. It will be left more to the state government to happen. Now what happens is a lot of central ministers go and actively campaign. So the nature of campaign itself has changed now. It has become one mega this thing. So more centralizing. Why doesn't, even panchayat election, you look at that, the mobilization happens in a major way. Another trend, all panchayat and municipal election, local body election, the party in power in the state naturally wins.
That's right.
So why does this happen? Because they send a lot of cabinet ministers to campaign, because they have better resources. So this whole thing that, that if elections are held and they can save money, and like CI is saying that, look, investments could be made. There is no empirical evidence to suggest that money is saved because of conduct of elections could be diverted to development works, say building a bridge or a road or infrastructure. There is nothing. They can always do that. Why haven't they done it? I mean, it doesn't require that you get funds from there. So I think these are very specious arguments. I don't agree with that. The economy growth, in fact, on the contrary, whenever elections take place, economy gets pugged up. Okay. Because a lot more spending happens. Right. There's so much in India. Elections are like a big tamasha. It's like a big, so many things come together. So many vehicles go, so many flights go, so many politicians travel. The expenses really go up, and in some ways it actually helps in reviving the economy.
One last question there, sir. With Centre set to introduce One Nation, One Election expected to be on December 16, in the Parliament, what's next for the Indian democracy?
Yeah, so again, look, Indian democracy, if you ask that question, what next to Indian democracy? Democracy per se is noisy, messy, and perhaps the attempt is being made to make it more orderly, that, very nicely 5-year one elections. But whether parties will agree to that, especially regional parties, is a question. So you're saying what might happen? On Monday, they might table the bills will be tabled, discussions will happen, it has to be passed. Whether they have the majority, because there are a number of amendments. Some amendments require constitutional amendment, which means 2/3 present and voted, which is called special majority. So currently, if you look at the numbers, 292 is what India has got, and they require, I think, 362. Sorry. So where will they get these numbers? So which means they have to convince opposition, they have to do something more to get these numbers. And whether we'll be able to get those numbers is a big question. That's one. So the question is whether this will happen. The Kovind committee suggests that let's not have any constitutional amendments for aligning, synchronizing parliament and assembly elections. Let that be only for, civic polls, municipal polls, panchayat polls. There are some provisions which requires amendments because you have to question the state assembly. You have to take the proposal too. So if you were to look at it, there are three kinds of, legislative business that might happen. One is simple majority. Second is, as I said, special majority, 2/3. Third is at least 50% of the assemblies have to agree to that. That's a third issue. Right. So it's going to be a massive exercise. How they're going to do is a question. Opposition says, of course, that look, all this is just diversionary tactics because they have been raising issues on Adani and other contentious issues. The government just wants to avoid, so they just thrown another, just trying to divert all these issues. But I personally feel that, look, for a country like India, elections are very important. Expenses, if you look at it, the real question is not election expenses or how much election administratively you're doing to conduct an election. That's minuscule. The bigger one, the real elephant in the room is how much political parties are spending. I mean, if you were to look at one estimate, how much BJP had spent in this election, it's 10,500 crores. They got just out of electoral bonds. Yeah. I'm not going into what is the total expenditure BJP might have spent. We don't know. 10,500 crores only out of electoral bonds. Out of that, 6,000 anonymous. So we don't even know which person has donated those. So the real, of course, that's been struck down. The entire thing has been struck down by the courts. It's been abolished now. But the point here is that is a bigger elephant in the room. How does political parties fund the election? I mean, that's the main question. So if reforms have to be made, you have to start from there.
That's right. Okay.
So administratively, they are trying to, holding election is an issue they are bringing up. Why not they look into those issues? That's what I would say.
Thank you very much. Wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.